Algier out to the 35. This time London. He held on. He's on to slip through and score. Bates talking. Jesse Bates interception. 15, 10, 5. Drive home safely.
Falcons fans, what's up? Welcome to another Falcons Final Whistle. I'm your host, Will McFadden. I'm joined by Tori McElhaney, and we have a very different show than the one we had this time last week. The Atlanta Falcons dropped a road game to the Carolina Panthers. They are 0-2 in the division. They lost 30-0. It was not a great showing at all in kind of all phases of the game for Atlanta, Tori. Do you have any just kind of like overarching thoughts for this one before we get into the first quarter?
Yeah, I think that for me, it's going to be really hard to break down this game in a way that is even, I think, remotely digestible for fans, because I don't know how you can talk about a 30-0 game against an 0-2 team in your division and not kind of want to like blow the roof off of everything in terms of your own anger about it. So I'm trying like really hard to see perspective, but also understand how the perspective and reality is that you just lost 30-0 to an NFC South opponent that had two losses. Like I don't know. I'm not going to be able to sugarcoat this thing.
Well, I have been colored as the optimist on this podcast, but I don't think I'm going to be able to sugarcoat it either.
Like we'll continue to do those roles where I'm the pessimist and you're the optimist, but I don't know how you spin this one. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm sure people will expect me to try my best, and so that's what I'll I'm sure ultimately end up doing. But as a quick reminder for anybody who is new to this year's show, we've got 4 quarters. We have 6 minutes for each quarter. Once the quarter is over, we will hear a nice friendly whistle, letting us know that it is time to move on to the second quarter. So, Tori, right up top, we're going to get into the first quarter and talk a little bit about the offense. You know, I think overall, when you put 0 points on the board, you got a lot of question marks on that side of the ball. What's the number one thing that you kind of identified offensively today that was an issue?
So I don't think that you can talk about this game in a vacuum. You have to talk about what the offense has, or better yet, not have, like what they have not done.
What they lack.
What they lack in 3 full games of what we have seen from this offense. You know, in week 1, there was like, okay, a lack of explosives. And you're like, okay, it's week 1. You're getting the jitters out. You're knocking the rust off. Okay. Then week 2, it's like, well, you made it to the red zone and you were moving the ball really well, but you couldn't punch it in. So like, okay, next step, like being able to punch the ball into the end zone. But then in week 3 against this particular Carolina Panthers defense, you didn't even get to the red zone at all. You never even gave yourself a chance inside the 20s. And I think like there were a lot of miscues. There were some procedural stuff that very early on, it was very worrisome. And then you have Michael Penix not being able to connect on very many of his throws at all. You had some dropped passes. The Falcons couldn't consistently move the ball at all. Like there was no one thing that I'm sitting here today being like, yeah, it was this one thing. And if they fix this one thing, it means that they're going to score points. Like the reality of the situation is the Falcons have spent the last 8 quarters of football and only gotten into the end zone 1 time. And in this level of professional football, like you can't win games. That's not sustainable. That's not something, that's not an operation for success. And then on top of that, the fact that games into this thing and there is no Falcons tight end or receiver that has had a passing touchdown, receiving touchdown. We're 3 games in. Like that to me is indicative of how far this offense has yet to go.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And it's easy to point to, I think, some of the like miscues early on in this game, the headset kind of going in and out, having to call a timeout or getting a delay of game after a timeout, things like that. And those definitely need to be cleaned up. However, I kind of look at more just the overall flow of this offense and kind of the overall how are we attacking teams, right? Because this was once again a defense that really, I think, kept a second safety back. They were not pressuring Michael Penix. They were not trying to get the ball out of his hand quickly. They were content to say, all right, let's see what you got, number 9. Let's have you dice us up. And by and large, he kind of turned down a lot of those downfield opportunities and just kind of settled for what was easy. And on top of that, when the Vikings did a similar approach, the Falcons seemed very content to just say, okay, we're going to hand it off to Bijan, to Tyler. We're going to run the ball down your throats. And, I feel like Atlanta had some success running the ball today. They just didn't make it the core part of their game plan the way that I was kind of expecting them to. And I was just a little bit surprised that Michael Penix, what did he throw? Like 38 times in this
Yeah.
game? That's a lot of attempts for what was a game that a lot of people I felt like coming into it was, hey, go handle your business, do what you do best, go beat a team in the division on the road, a team that you feel like on paper you're better than, and get out of there. And there were just a little bit of confusing moments, I think, offensively.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think to your point about like, okay, he threw the ball a lot. And I think the Falcons actually came into this game wanting to push the ball downfield. I think that even in those
Mm-hmm.
first couple of drives, like seeing kind of the play calls, and it really was like a okay, like teams have been taking this away from us. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna just shoot the ball
Getting
downfield. And
Darnell involved seemed like
yeah,
a big priority. Yep.
yeah, you had Kyle Pitts targeted very early. You had Drake London and Darnell Mooney. Like there were a lot. They were trying to push the ball downfield. And in the first couple of series, Michael Penix was not connecting on some of these passes. And at that point in time, I was like, it's okay. I see what they're trying to do. Like he'll start connecting on some of these eventually. Like it'll be fine. And then that never manifested. That never came around. It was like that never, it was almost like he never got comfortable within the flow of what he was even needing to operate within. And I think like that was, again, the word that I'm using is worrisome. Like what we saw today was worrisome in the context of this game and also in the context of kind of the lack of production that we've seen over the first 3 weeks of this season.
Absolutely. But in to play devil's advocate, and here comes the optimist in me, is sometimes I feel like a full blown 30-0 defeat may help identify a clearer error than maybe a 28-27 loss, right? If you're able to look at this and be like, oh man, why is my computer key not tapping the P button when I hit it? And then you look over and your actual computer itself is on fire. You're like, maybe it's not my keyboard that's broken. Maybe there's something else that's over here that's an issue. So a 30-0 defeat maybe helps them identify something moving forward because there's a lot of season left to go. That's our whistle. Let's move on to the second quarter and let's talk a little bit more about the quarterback play for Atlanta today. We did see Michael Penix get pulled for Kirk Cousins. Tori, what did Raheem have to say after the game about that decision?
Yeah, so he basically said that the game was out of hand. And it was the same reason that you saw Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier be pulled for Nathan Carter. Like there was no reason at that point in time with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter that the Falcons were going to make a comeback. It just wasn't statistically possible. So at that point, it's like, okay, close up shop, move forward, don't get anybody hurt, hope for the best next week. But then of course, because of the play of Michael Penix and the inconsistency of it and the misses that he had and the miscues within the operation itself, like then of course I think that there's this overwhelming then conversation about like, okay, like, well, what does this mean? Like I saw a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people saying on Twitter or social media that Michael Penix was benched for Kirk Cousins, and that's not the language here. Like that's not what happened here. And then after the game, of course, Raheem Morris is asked So does this mean that Kirk Cousins is going to have the chance to compete for the starting job? And he flat out emphatically said no, with no rebuttal, just no, period, full sentence, no. So that's kind of where they are right now. Like, I never even thought, within the context of Kirk Cousins coming out to finish that game, there was no thought in my mind that the Falcons were thinking about moving back to Kirk Cousins. Like, I think that we've been in such this carousel of quarterbacks over the last few years that you kind of fallen into this place of like, oh, well, X plus Y must equal Z. But like in this situation, that's not what happened. Like X plus Y does not equal Z. Like, you're going back to X, you're going back to Michael Penix. Like that. So for all of the fans out there, like, for as not good as it was, I don't think that it's indicative of the Falcons now having this quarterback conversation, which, again, of course, ever since the Falcons decided that Kirk Cousins was going to be Michael Penix's backup, I knew that this was going to come up as soon as Michael Penix had a game where he wasn't at his best, that we were going to have to be talking about Kirk Cousins and potentially what the Falcons are going to do there. Right now, it is Michael Penix's job, and that's not changing.
I think it's a great example of kind of like in all of our lives, we can say like, hey, instant gratification doesn't always lead to the long-term best. You got to sometimes put like one foot in front of the other and move forward and sometimes take a step back, but then you keep moving forward and you learn from it. This is a growing pain game, I think, for Michael Penix, right? And there was always going to be moments like this. Maybe you didn't think it was going to be a 30-0 loss that ends up with you finishing the game on the bench, but there were always going to be some moments where there were stretches where you said, hey, all right, it's a young quarterback, and we have not seen the final product yet from Michael Penix Jr. But a game like this hopefully helps get him there and provides him with a lot of lessons in the NFL about how to play this game. And I appreciate the fact that the coaching staff is probably going to ride those lessons hard this week and then give him another shot out there, because that's kind of what development is a growth through obstacles and hardship. And that's kind of where they are here. But what's really interesting to me is more his approach in this game. He wasn't taking the shots downfield. When we did the Friday Five and talked about our confidence level, I gave the passing game a 4. And my reason was I have all the faith in the world for Michael Penix to push the ball downfield. We've seen him do that time and time again. What he showed me in the first couple of games was the ability to kind of spread it around in the intermediate game and the short game. Today, though, it felt like he was very quickly just going to the backfield and his outlet passes.
Yeah, this is a good thought-provoking question, because it's like the Michael Penix that we saw in the last 3 games last year and his 3 starts in 2024.
He was letting it fly. Letting it rip.
Was letting it rip. And I feel like in 2025, these first 3 games, we're seeing a bit more of a timid approach. And I don't know if that's play calling. I don't know if that is what defenses are taking away. It may be a combination of both of those. But the thing is like, we haven't seen, I think, what Michael Penix's bread and butter is, and it's this gunslinger. Like, that's that. If you're going to come up with a word to encompass who Michael Penix Jr. is, he's a gunslinger, and he just has this like unreal confidence in his arm strength. I think back to the Daryl Hodge pass last year against Carolina in week 18. Like, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen the Kyle Pitts 4th down against the Washington Commanders. We haven't seen that there. We haven't seen going back to Drake over his back shoulder in the end zone twice. Like, we haven't seen those throws. And I don't know what is missing from those 3 starts that Michael had in 2024 to these now 3 starts that he's had in 2025. And I do think it's a bit of a microcosm of the issues that the Falcons are having offensively.
100%. Yeah. You got somebody who you want to kind of build a downfield attack around. And I think maybe the second interception was a moment where, he's trying to rip a comeback like 20 yards down the field. But again, it just kind of felt like a little bit of an off game from number 9, and we will hope he gets it corrected. That's our second quarter whistle. So let's go ahead and kind of do a quick halftime break and talk about an awesome stat brought to us by our sponsor, Microsoft Copilot. Tori, The Falcons blitzed Bryce Young 17 times in today's game, which was 63% of the
Wow.
rate for their defense. And he was pretty effective against them.
He
He was 9 of
was.
14, 72 yards, 7 times pressured on the blitzes there. But coming into this game, he had 270 yards on passes under 10 air yards and 4 touchdowns. Those 4 touchdowns were tied for the most in the NFL. So it was a little bit of a curious, I think, approach to maybe blitz him and get the ball out of his hands quickly because that is coming into this game what he did so well. Really quickly, do you have any thoughts on kind of the defensive performance? We're not going to touch on it a lot in this episode, but really quickly here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I understood a bit of what the defense was trying to do, and I'll give credit where credit is due. I thought the defense didn't deserve to come out of that game having lost 30 to 0. Like in
Yeah.
reality, for me, I say that they gave up one touchdown. Like in my brain, they gave up one touchdown on that opening drive for Carolina. Like every other point that was scored was either a field goal, it was a pick six, and then it was kind of a junkyard time or in the like garbage time put away touchdown when your back is kind of
Yeah.
broken at that point. Like so this loss, this performance, this 30-0 score, I think it wasn't indicative of this defensive performance. And even and they were getting off the field on third down. Like outside of those two long drive, the first one and then the one towards the end of the game, like they were getting off the field. They were giving the offense a chance. No, special teams outside of the kicking game was giving the offense a chance, and they never did anything with those opportunities.
Completely agree. So 17 blitzes, 1 sack on the day, 7 pressures, moving right along. That halftime was brought to you by Microsoft Copilot. Third quarter, Tori. What'd you see the fans' reaction to this game be? I know you got a lot of replies.
They were pissed, like, and that's being completely honest and completely real. Like, I don't think there's any way around it. Again, like, you got shut out for the first time in a decade on the road. And the last time this happened was in week 11 of the 2015 season against the Carolina Panthers. Like that in and of itself, I especially coupled with the fact that the Falcons have had such like starts and stops with this offense over the last 3 games, that it's really difficult, I think, until the offense shows something different, shows that there is life within it. I don't know how much this fan base is going to be on board, because for the last however many years since the final years of the Matt, Julio, Calvin offense that was so high powered that took the team to a Super Bowl in 2016, like since that time, I go back to the quarterback carousel and the starts and the stops and the run game being exciting and fun, but then also the pass game and the quarterbacks, and you're switching a quarterback every half of a year, and it's just like you can never buy in to too much, and that is a really tough place, I think, for fans to be in. And right now, the Falcons, it's kind of up to the Falcons offense to say, hey, you can put your hope and your trust in us and what we're doing. Like when we say we're going to be an explosive, high-powered offense, like we're going to show you that's who we are. And I think so far we haven't seen that. And we've seen, of course, like we've seen Bijan be Bijan.
Yeah.
But outside of that, what have we seen? And the stats are what they are. The red zone appearances are what they are. This game against the Carolina Panthers was what it was. So until we see something different, there's just like not a lot to feel really confident about. And that's harsh. That's a really harsh thing to say, but like I don't have anything else to go off of.
Yeah, the offense at this point needs a game like the defense had in Minnesota, I think, to kind of win some fans back. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's Michael Penix throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. I don't know if it's Bijan and Tyler combining for 300 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. Like any of the above, I think would fit.
So what's interesting too is in the locker room, Drake London says, it was not good all around. And the quote was like, this is not the standard of kind of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, show us what that standard is. Because right now, I don't know what the standard is. I know what you've told me the standard is. I know what the goal is, but the goal and the standard are these two things that you've told me about but haven't shown me. And I mean, it's hard to win games in the NFL. Like, it really is.
Absolutely.
And I'm sympathetic to that. Anyone can go out on any given Sunday and beat whoever the freak they want to beat. Like, that's just how the NFL is wired right now. But even in saying that, like, you should also score points. You have an offense that has how many first round picks? Like, and to put up 0 points against the Carolina Panthers is just it's a bit mind boggling to me.
I feel like Jake Matthews always gets kind of left out of that first round pick conversation. I'm sorry, that was just a brain tangent, but you were like, how many first round picks? And I was going through them and I was like, don't forget Jake.
Yeah, you have Jake, you have Chris, you used to have Caleb, you have Bijan, Drake, Michael Penix, Kyle. Like, that's over half of your, it's over half of your offense.
Do you remember in I think it was 2020 when we had that, like, all 11 starters were first round picks for the offense? And this is such a side tangent. Back to the main point. I had right here, the first note that I wrote down was, this is a reminder of how quickly this league can humble you. Yeah. Right? Because like that 2015 Panthers team was undefeated at the time that they beat the Falcons, right?
Yeah.
This Panthers team was defeated by the time they came in. So if you are, and I don't think the team at all was, celebrating or riding high after last week's win to the point that they weren't focused on this game, right? I asked Chris Lindstrom in the locker room afterwards, did you see this coming based on your week of preparation? He was like, no, we were on point. We were locked in. So I do think that the fans, though, were kind of coming into this one riding a little bit high. And in the NFL, any team is good enough to beat any other team.
Yeah, but the thing is like, you want your fan base to be riding.
You do.
Right?
So yeah, I'm not blaming the fans at all. I'm just kind of saying that I feel like this loss feels such like a 360 or 180. Yes. I always say 360.
I know,
but it feels like such a 180 when in reality, like, we should have just been division game. They're coming for us. It's their home opener, X, Y, and Z. So maybe, again, like, they didn't overlook them, but this is also a reminder that the league does some crazy things at times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the surprise. Like, even Bijan Robinson was like, I'm surprised they didn't expect us to lose 30-0 today.
Right. Yeah. That's the bigger thing is more the way the outcome happened than the outcome. You always expect to win or lose, right? Like, this is the NFL. Everybody has those great players, but 30-0 is something to fix. Fourth quarter, Tori, where do the Falcons go from here? Like, how do they move forward from this? Because it just counts as one loss. Yeah, however,
but it's a big one.
It's a big one.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that I kind of hold on to is like how out the gate of the NFC South race last year the Falcons were. Like they beat Tampa Bay twice. Like they were just on an absolute tear in the NFC South. And then they ultimately don't win the division at the end of the year. So, like, even though you've lost 2 in your division, your 2 losses on the year came in your division. Like, I don't think it's over.
No.
Like, I think it's far from over. Like, there is this age, like the old adage, and everyone freaking says it all the time. And sometimes I'm like, ugh, because it sometimes aggravates me so much. It's just like, okay, yes, it is just one game and there's a long season ahead. And, we got however many more weeks of this, and all of that is true, but you can only say that up to a point. Like, once you get to a point, none of that matters anymore because you've lost too many games. But I don't think the Falcons are not to that point yet. So while things do look bleak at this point in time, I think if you can go into this Washington Commanders game coming up next week, next Sunday, and you can kind of come out I don't even think you have to win that game. I think you just need to have a much better performance. Like, you just need to be in step with the Washington Commanders so that you can at least go into the bye week feeling a bit better about your situation. However, I will say, a lot freaking better if you could go into the bye week at 2-2, knowing that you have the Buffalo Bills coming out of the bye week and the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I would very much like to win against the Washington Commanders. That would make me feel so much better personally. I kind of just feel like the way that the Falcons respond next week is going to say as much, if not more, than this game, right? Because it is still early in the season. And when you get punched in the mouth, right, like that's when you kind of find what your resolve is, what you're made of. And hopefully this is a galvanizing moment for this Atlanta Falcons team that has a lot of young players that have probably been through or are going through this for like the first time. I mean, how many times do you think Bijan Robinson has lost 30-0 in his life?
Right. Yeah, you know? No. And I think that, and I want to read this quote from Bijan because I think it's encompassing kind of everything that we're talking about here, that he says, I believe this game can either break a team or make a team. And for us, this needs to make the team. We need to come in tomorrow. We need to watch this game. We all need to feel the hurt the same way. This is a division game at that, so it needs to hurt even more. For us, this loss right here, when people look back at it, this needs to be the week where we come together and it changed everything so we can become the team that we want to become. Like that is so eloquently said, and that is the exact mindset that you have to have coming out of a game that was as, I think, demoralizing as this one was. And again, demoralizing is a very, very strong word, but it's the right word. You can't talk about a shutout like this and not kind of talk about it at the level of what it should be talked about.
It was such a good quote that frankly I'm a little concerned that Bijan is coming for my job because he so succinctly, I think, put the game into context and how you move forward from this. And it is up to the Falcons to write the story of this season, right? Like that was kind of their mindset in training camp in the offseason. We're not going to talk it. We're going to walk it. And today you didn't walk it. So how do you respond from this? And you got a great team that was in the playoffs last year on deck. Go out there and put it to them the way the Carolina Panthers kind of just did to you. So really, like, the evolution, I know that the first couple of games of the season can be misnomers and they can be a little bit of fool's gold here. Do you buy, and where do you need to see the Falcons evolve to feel like this is a little bit of a fool's gold game?
Offensively.
Yeah.
You've got to score touchdowns. Like, I mean, that's I feel like I'm not really saying anything that's like rocket science. I'm not talking about like the X's and O's. I'm not really getting into much of anything at all. Like, I feel like, but the reason for that is because at the end of the day, like, put good on good and go at it and win your reps, like, and go punch the ball in the end zone. Like, you can't win games consistently in this league if you do not score. Like, even Zach Robinson said it himself last week, talking about not getting in the end zone last week against Minnesota. And he said, like, that's not winning football games. You aren't scoring, you're not winning football games. You can squeak out a few here and there, but you're not winning. And, like, that's what happened today. And it's what happened against the Carolina Panthers. And, like, you won't be sitting here with a win in your back pocket against some of these really good teams, really good defenses and offenses in this league if you're not scoring points.
Yeah,
I'm exasperated.
You've got to be able to keep pace in this league for sure. That's our fourth and final whistle. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's podcast. I know it wasn't a great one. It certainly was not a great game. Actually, Tori, we're going to take a 5-second moment of silence to let everybody just sit in their feelings for a second. And then we're going to flush this and we're going to turn the page and we're going to move on. All right. Ready?
Ready.
Let's go. Man, that felt good. Whew. All right. That game, It's in the past. It's in the rear view. We're on to Washington. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's Falcons Final Whistle. Thank you, Tori, for joining me. Thank you to our producer, Jared, for his work on this episode. Hopefully we are talking to you guys next week about a better and different outcome. But until then, the Falcons got a week of work ahead. They've got some improvements to make, and we will discuss the outcome of that work in 1 week. So for Tori McElhaney, I am Will McFadden. We will see you all next time.